Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 1, Master and Apprentice. Yet another Star Wars moment that makes Qui-Gon Jinn wish he was born just a few years later for medical technology to heal stab wounds. I am loving this series so far. It's doing some interesting stuff with Star Wars lore. I got some theories, folks. My Easter egg breakdown of Episode 2 will come to this channel tomorrow, and me and Tommy's Wookiee Leaks discussion of Episodes 1 and 2 are over on the Break Room channel. Please subscribe to that channel. And SAG-AFTRA has informed us that entertainment journalists like New Rockstars are allowed to cover movies and TV shows like this during the strike, but we support these unions in getting a fair deal from the AMPTP. All right, let's get started. We open with a red Lucasfilm logo with some amazing music from composer Kevin Kiner. Kiner composed all the music for Clone Wars and Rebels, but often what you heard on those shows were just leitmotifs to John Williams' Star Wars themes. But in some rare moments, especially in the later years, Kiner's true talent really came out. And here, there's this unusual percussion. Framing the story of Ahsoka is what I consider to be a story of witchcraft and astrology, way more than I expected. Whereas normally the Lucasfilm fanfare has a mix of red and blue lights flashing over the metallic heads, now it is only the color red. We see the mask of Vader, then C-3PO, then a clone trooper helmet. Could we get a Rex cameo this season? Then the head of an HK assassin droid, then the helmet of Marok, that's the mysterious new Inquisitor who joins Baylan and Shin, then Hu Yang, then a stormtrooper, then Chopper, and then finally the Mandalorian Night Owl T-visor design of the helmet of Sabine Wren. Red is also the color of a new take on the Star Wars opening crawl, which is incredible. It's red instead of yellow, and rather than bending backward into space, it just scrolls upward. So why the difference? Why the prominence of the color red here? Well, I think it's because we are in a dark era where a new narrative is being written. It's not a story of ragtag resistors bringing down an evil Goliath. Here, the good guys start the story in charge, and they are letting control slip away to the forces of evil. Now, this opening crawl catches us up with who Ahsoka is, who Morgan Elsbeth is, and who Thrawn is. Now, I've made some other videos about Thrawn, but he is awesome. Come from Timothy Zahn's 1991 Heir to the Empire Thrawn trilogy, a character who is brought back into Star Wars Rebels, an animation voiced by Lars Mikkelsen, who will play the character on this show. He's a blue-skinned Chiss, an Imperial Admiral, a brilliant individual. We last saw him at the end of Rebels when he and Jedi Ezra Bridger were zipped off to hyperspace by a pod of Purrgil hyperspace whales. And just so we're all clear, Purrgil, P-U-R-R-G-I-L, is plural. You don't say Purrgils, just a group of them is called Purrgil. It's okay, we're all kind of on a learning curve with this show. And remember, Morgan Elsbeth is that Beskar spear-toting woman that Ahsoka Tano dueled on Corvus in The Mandalorian, which ended with Ahsoka saying,
"Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?"
And woof, if we have to do this, Ahsoka Tano is the ex-Jedi from the Clone Wars animated series, the apprentice to Anakin Skywalker, who left the Jedi Order after being wrongfully accused of a Jedi Temple bombing, and she later came back in Star Wars Rebels as the rebel agent codenamed Fulcrum, who joined the crew of the Ghost. Look, if this is all new information to you, we are in the middle of a Rebels recap series. Be sure to watch those. Okay, we see a round-hulled ship with New Republic insignia passing beneath us, not over our heads, but beneath us. This vessel is from the Mon Calamari fleet. We saw Mon Calamari ships like this in Return of the Jedi. That's why the bridge has the same swivel chair that we saw Admiral Akbar sitting in, and in Rogue One, Admiral Raddus sitting in. Captain Hale is played by Mark Rolston, who played Drake in Aliens, and First Officer Jensen Corbett is played by Shakira Barrera, aka Yo-Yo from Glow, and the Navigator droid is voiced by Bonnie Wild, who worked in the sound department for The Mandalorian.
They're early.
It isn't Home 1.
Home 1 was Admiral Akbar's flagship in Return of the Jedi, and apparently continues as the New Republic's fleet flagship to this day. They called it Home because Mon Calamari converted their aquatic cities into starships for the Rebel fleet. The approaching ship is an Eta-class shuttle, which is significant because these were used as Jedi ambassador shuttles during the Clone Wars. It approaches Mon Calamari's ship now with its down-facing wings framed to look like it is closing in on this ship with a vice grip. The comms officer reports,
"They're Jedi."
and I like how that astromech droid turns his head too, like, wait, the This episode is titled Master and Apprentice, referring to these hooded visitors. And yes, they do recall Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan visiting the Trade Federation ship at the beginning of The Phantom Menace. They are visiting Jedi, but there is something off about them. They use Jedi hardware, Jedi clearance codes, but they are not Jedi. Since Baylan survived the Purge, we learn later that could explain how he has old Jedi clearance codes. Their names are Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, which is significant because Skoll and Hati are the names of the wolves in Norse mythology who chase the sun and the moon across the sky in hopes hopes of devouring them, just like these two hunt a star map lined with loath wolves to chart their course across the stars. Throughout this video, I will be pointing out the significance of wolf imagery because I think these names were chosen by design. Baylan is played by the late Ray Stevenson. He passed away earlier this year, and it's super sad because he is so good on this show. That's why this episode ends with "For our friend Ray." Baylan Skoll is an old Jedi who, based on his age, would have been a contemporary with Anakin Skywalker. His apprentice, Shin Hati, has a Padawan braid, telling us that despite them not being Jedi, he does train her in the Jedi tradition. They carry lightsabers not the color red, but orange. It's a subtle distinction, but it is intentional. Dave Filoni chose this to indicate that they aren't Sith who carry red blades, they are something in between. As Shin slashes through these New Republic officers, in the foreground you see one poor officer fumbling for that blaster in his holster. These smug New Republic officers just were not expecting to fight. In the background of this hangar, you can see New Republic X-Wings and A-Wings, and they're painted blue, perhaps indicating that the Blue Squadron is back in commission since the Battle of Scarif. Baylan confirms,
"We are no Jedi."
If you watched Rebels, you know that this line is hugely important to Ahsoka, who had a similar line in her epic duel with Vader in the season 2 finale.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
This show clearly wants us to draw a parallel between Ahsoka and Baylan. One master who gave up on her apprentice because she saw the nightmare extreme of the Jedi way. One master who thinks that he actually can do it right, but just doing it his own way, with orange. Kevin Kiner uses dramatic piano chords to score Baylan's slaughter. It's so good, and Baylan never stops moving, like Vader in the Rogue One killbox sequence. Vader also incorporated a levitating force choke. Baylan even uses the force to unlock a scomp link, which are normally so complicated only an astromech can crack them. This guy has clearly mastered the ways of the force in ways that we haven't seen since Vader, or I guess arguably Luke Skywalker. Morgan Elsbeth's prisoner jumpsuit is numbered in Orbesh 620, and she says,
Baylan, you are true to your word.
And well paid for it, Lady Morgan.
So it sounds like Morgan set up some mercenaries to break her out if she were ever captured. Okay, onto Ahsoka Tano. She explores ruins on a planet that we later learn is called Arcana. Structures built by Morgan Elsbeth's ancestors, we learn the Nightsisters of Dathomir. Morgan Elsbeth is a Nightsister of Dathomir, and this is a huge deal. The Nightsisters refer to a sect of magic-wielding female Dathomirians that included Maul's mother, Mother Talzin. This coven used their green sorcery to reanimate his legs, and the Nightsisters are awesome. Dave Filoni based them on the Witches of Dathomir from Dave Wolverton's 1994 Legends novel, The Courtship of Princess Leia, but the character, the sorceress Charal from the 1985 TV movie Ewoks: The Battle of Endor, was later retconned into a Nightsister from the illustrated Star Wars universe. So technically, they've been with us for some time. The Legends term was technically the Witches of Dathomir. With Star Wars Clone Wars, they were called the Nightsisters, but they were considered to be the same thing. And then in 2022, in the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 3, Danny Trejo's character, the Rancor Tamer, started talking about the history of Rancors, and he said this.
It is said that the Witches of Dathomir even rode them through the forest and fens.
So making Morgan Elsbeth a Nightsister reframes her character from a samurai-inspired warrior and military leader that just supports Thrawn into more of a mystic figure who practices a different kind of sorcery than the Jedi or the Sith use. One might argue an older form of magic, which is very, very interesting for this show. It's going beyond the Jedi and Sith legend. These Arcana structures were built by ancient Nightsisters, and 3 giant figures with bare feet align with the 3 inside the temple, and they are all dressed in the same kind of hooded garb that we saw Mother Talzin wearing. These ruins, you'll notice, are covered in these black sands, which at first I thought might be volcanic soil, but the way it ignites later makes me think it's kind of a black powder, maybe powdered rhydonium. The whole place was clearly rigged to blow up and keep its secrets from being found. And you'll notice the sphere she finds is buried in the same material. The Nightsisters planned for perhaps this map to never be found. Alternatively, this substance might be the ashes of Malachor, which we see on Malachor in the Rebel Season 2 finale. They are made of the burnt and pulverized bones of the Jedi and Sith who fought there and wiped themselves out. These ashes are inhaled by Sith to imbue this Sith with the dark essence trapped within the remains. Yeah, it's really messed up, but it is awesome. Again, watch Rebels. Ahsoka does this awesome move of using the Force to spin her lightsabers through the ground around her and dropping herself on that disc to the level below. And she did the same move to escape the clone troopers in the Clone Wars Season 7 finale on that crashing ship. On the walls of this temple are engravings of constellations, the 3 Nightsisters, and these spheres that 2 are holding, 1 is levitating. And again, 3 of them them, mirroring the three witches, the weird sisters of Macbeth, which get referenced in the title of episode 2, Toil and Trouble. Ahsoka lines up these rotating pedestals, reminding us of like the Fifth Element or a puzzle that you'd play in the Tomb Raider games. Now, if Thrawn was lost in just the past decade, why would a star map to his location be buried in an ancient temple thousands of years prior? Obviously, this map points to a location Thrawn just ended up at. Thrawn didn't just go to a where, he went to a when, I think. And the pathway to that when-where was lost thousands of years ago. In fact, Elsbeth's interest in Thrawn might have come from Thrawn being mentioned in old Nightsister bedtime stories that she grew up with. Could Thrawn end up being this like 1885 Dr. Emmett Brown figure that all the people at the post office were taking bets on? Ahsoka rises to find HK assassin droids waiting for her. Remember, Morgan Elsbeth used these on Corvus in that Mandalorian episode, but the way that first one was just frozen in place the moment Ahsoka hopped up is so creepy. Like it was creeping forward right until it was seen. Like you have to keep your eyes on it or it will rush at you. They fight, and these droids end up activating these thermal detonators in their chests just like they did on Corvus, and Ahsoka has to run for it and catches up with her T6 shuttle. Piloting it is Huyang, the Mark IV architect droid from the Jedi ship The Crucible, who appeared in Clone Wars as the professor who taught young Jedi about lightsabers and kyber crystals. I love that Ahsoka somehow tracked him down all these years after the Purge. He's voiced by David Tennant, so forgive me if I at times refer to him as Dr. Huyang. Now, real quick, we want to say thanks to Spin Master for sponsoring this video, as well as introduce their new brand 4D Build, featuring licensed 3D Star Wars puzzles. 4D Build makes detailed cardstock 3D puzzle model kits. If you're a Star Wars superfan who digs puzzles or wants to add your museum of Star Wars collectibles, you will love these. Everything you need to build a 3D puzzle comes in the box. You're not gonna have to go hunt down a tiny screwdriver or anything like that. Each box contains a set of cardstock puzzle sheets, instructions, and a bottle of glue just in case. The instructions are super clear and easy to follow, and in about 2 to 3 hours, you can have a finished R2 unit. Now, bigger puzzles take longer, but you know what they say, the Death Star wasn't built in a day. Destroyed in one, sure, but not built. There's so much attention to detail, and the puzzles are super sturdy when they're done. They are designed with replica level detail and made for showing off, which is why every model comes with a display stand. To get a 4D Build Star Wars puzzle model kit of your own, just click the link in the description below or head to Target.com. For as little as $15, you can start your own Star Wars puzzle collection today. I love the detail of the atmospheric moisture on the cockpit canopy, makes it all just feel so real. Ahsoka reminds Huyang that the Jedi Order does not exist anymore, and Huyang asked her how she got Elsbeth to confess the location of this map.
Let's just say I didn't follow standard Jedi protocol.
Yikes! Sounds like Ahsoka might have tortured it out of Elsbeth, perhaps using that Force torture that Kylo Ren uses in The Force Awakens. They get this call.
Fulcrum, this is Home 1. Do you copy? Over.
Their call sign is Fulcrum, which was Ahsoka's rebel codename during Rebels. On their approach to Home 1, they passed 3 X-Wings, which I'm just gonna assume are the ones piloted by Trapper Wolf, Jib Dodger, and Sash Ketter, because the cameo trio of Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow always shows up in these titles. Ahsoka's T6 soars past Home 1, matching the framing of Lando piloting the Falcon past Home 1 in the Battle of Endor and Return of the Jedi. Inside this hangar, Ahsoka is greeted by General Hera Syndulla, the Twi'lek captain of the Ghost and Rebels, here played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She wears a Phoenix Squadron patch on her sleeve. As in Rebels Season 2, the Ghost crew joined the Phoenix Squadron and Hera was promoted to the leader of it, and the back of her jacket shows the Ghost crew Spectre 2 patch. Huyang turns to look in shock at the teal navigation protocol droid that Shin Hati presumably sliced. We saw this droid in the opening scene, and as we'll see in episode 2, Huyang shares 3PO's sense of mortality. They meet in one of the Mon Calamari council rooms that we saw Mon Mothma giving a briefing in Return of the Jedi, with the same circular benches. Ahsoka tells Hera that the map contains the location of Thrawn, whom Hera thought died in the Battle of Lothal, but Ahsoka said it was never confirmed.
If Thrawn survived, does that mean Ezra?
Yes, they are recapping the finale of Rebels when both Ezra and Thrawn disappeared with the Purrgil. Up until this point, Hera thought both of them were dead. This Mon Calamari officer reports,
General, the Defense Council is requesting an update on the incident.
Now, this is not Admiral Akbar. Admiral Akbar didn't have this blue color, and this officer has a patch with a single dot on it, which means first officer or lieutenant. But this character does sound like him. We should note that Eric Bowersfield passed away in 2016. Okay, onto the planet Lothal, the recurring setting of the Rebels series. We see Governor Ryder Azadi giving a speech. Ryder Azadi was a prisoner in Lothal in Season 2, but broke out, who knew Ezra's parents and joined the Rebel cause. He was voiced by Clancy Brown, who plays him in live action here. Also on this dais is Senator Jai Kell, another character from Rebels, the cadet in the Lothal Imperial Academy alongside Ezra Bridger. Kell was believed to be Force sensitive. Vinnie Thomas plays him here, but the animated version was voiced by Rufio actor Dante Bosco. They're standing in front of this commemorative mural. We saw this in the final scene of Rebels. Sabine Wren painted it. She's quite the artist, and it is the same exact 2D illustration. It depicts the whole Ghost crew, Hera, Sabine, Ezra, Kanan Jarrus, Zeb, and Chopper, Loth cats, and we see 2 Loth wolves. 2 of them. one light, one dark. Could this mirror Skull and Hati as the wolves of Norse mythology? Are they, in a way, fighting on the same side of the Ghost crew? So Ryder asks Jaekel,
where is she?
actually, I think you can see Sabine's speeder bike in the lower right in the far distance, in the background on the ground there. Okay, set to some rock music that is definitely not common for Star Wars. Sabine Wren, played by Natasha Leo Bordizzo, speeds down this Lothal highway. She's wearing this helmet with some Lothcat drawings and the Orbish letters of B, AE, and B, or Babe. She also has a Phoenix Squadron patch on her jacket, though later in her box in her home, there is another Phoenix Squadron patch, which I wonder might be Ezra's. Meanwhile, the Orbesh on the traffic overhangs reads Caution, and then later, Sector 7, Sabine is chased by two E-Wings. Now, previously, these only showed up in Legends literature, first introduced in the Dark Empire comic. They were known as escort shuttles introduced during Thrawn's campaign to rebuild the Fallen Empire. Sabine seems to have a familiar relationship with this pilot, and notice his call sign is Spectre 2-1. So Spectre was how the crew of the Ghost numbered themselves. Sabine was Spectre 5, Kanan Jarrus was Spectre 1, Harris Syndulla was Spectre 2, Chopper Spectre 3, Zeb was Spectre 4, Ezra was Spectre 6, and then later on, Hera and Kanan's son, Jason, was Spectre 7. So it seems like they've continued that tradition with all the Lothal pilots. The astromech droid that shorts out is actually based on the vintage R2-D2 toy from Kenner with the teardrop indents for the red and the blue eyepieces. Really fun Easter egg there. Sabine lives in a communication tower that looks like Ezra's roost, Lothal Net Comm Tower E272. Seems like she's just moved into the home that he started the series in. On the walls, she's painted several stormtrooper helmets that have been X'd out. You can also see some drawings of Lothcats, Loth Wolves, Chopper, and some stacked stones. It might be a nod to her Jedi training of having to stack stones, like Yoda did with Luke on Dagobah. And we learn that she is kept as a pet. My favorite character in this series, this spotted Lothcat, which looks like a mix of VFX in the wide shots, but in close-ups, a practical puppet, which is similar to the mix of VFX and puppetry that brought Grogu to life. Just like Grogu, I want one of these things. Lothcats, a reminder, are native to Lothal. We actually saw one in live action growling at Grogu in The Mandalorian. As Sabine feeds this furball, in the foreground under the table collecting dust is her old Mandalorian helmet. Sabine came from the Mandalorian House Vizsla and served as an Imperial weapon specialist before she defected, but her family on Cronus remained loyal to the Empire. She briefly wielded the Darksaber. She got trained by Kanan in Season 3, but she handed off the Darksaber to Bo-Katan Kryze. Sabine had always kept her hair short because her scalp would get hot under the helmet, so the fact that her hair is grown out now tells us that she's left that warrior life behind. She plays a hollow recording from Ezra Bridger, who is played in this series by Iman Esfandi.
Sorry for disappearing on you. As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. We're not really family, but you're like a sister to me. I know your fight isn't over, and now I won't be there to help you. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
Oh wow, so like Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame, Ezra Bridger knew what he was about to do, make a sacrifice play with Thrawn in the Purgle, and he took a moment to make a goodbye recording before that final fight. I like the detail how he rubs his head when he says we're not really family, because that was just a recurring thing in Rebels. All these members of the Ghost crew had their own families that they were either running away from or dying to get back to, yet they still loved each other. And clearly Ezra doesn't want to insert himself in between Sabine and her family. Morgan Elsbeth tells Shen that she's a Nightsister of Dathomir.
You're a witch. A survivor.
Damn. So Elsbeth rejects the pejorative of someone who would use sorcery for whims, instead reframes the idea of being a Nightsister as a believer who holds closer dogma in order to survive over the ages. Someone who has survived in the way that the Jedi and the Sith have not survived. Shin still doesn't trust it though.
What thread is she spinning?
No, it's not witchcraft.
Yes, Elsbeth is obsessed with the idea of fate and prophecy, and spinning thread comes from the Greek archetype of spiders and the fates spinning thread and weaving the tapestry of the future. But Baylan, notice, no longer sees it as a bogus superstition. But with Baylan is an Inquisitor who we still know little about, Marok. Their helmet is similar to that of the 8th brother in the Rebels Season 2 finale. That character supposedly died, but reminder that Inquisitors are Jedi hunters recruited by Darth Vader and Palpatine after the Purge, all of them former Jedi, to hunt down all the other Jedi refugees that are still in hiding. We know this one's an Inquisitor because all Inquisitors carry this round-hilted lightsaber that spins like this. Sabine dreams about Ezra, and we hear his voice saying, and if you look closely in the corner of this room behind her are some Stormtrooper helmets, including a few Scout Trooper helmets. They kind of look like the one Zeb stole for Ezra from that Scout Trooper who jumped on board the Ghost.
The kid wants your helmet. Sorry.
They also wore some Scout Trooper helmets when they first went into the Jedi Temple on Lothal. There's just a lot of different instances that they would have these from. This shot of Sabine looking out from the comms tower at the two X-Wings and Ahsoka's T6 mirrors the opening shot of Ezra in Rebels, Season 1, Episode 1, when he looked out at the Star Destroyer that arrived to Lothal. Writer Azadi scolds Sabine.
You were missed, Sabine. Everyone was there.
Not everyone.
Yeah, Sabine skipped the ceremony because it didn't feel right without Ezra there. Kevin Kiner doesn't sample John Williams' themes exactly, but he does include some riffs that evoke it, like he does here. Sabine re-enters the T6, and Kevin Kiner includes some sweet flute and clarinet and bell chimes, which really is just some classic John Williams tones that you hear in movies like E.T. Her bunk includes drawings of more Lothcats and Chopper, some stacked stones, and some TIE fighters. Rebels ended with Ahsoka rejoining Sabine to go off in search of Ezra Bridger, but now it's implied that Ahsoka taught Sabine in the Jedi ways, and that it didn't go too well.
You never made things easy for me, Master.
There is nothing easy about being a Jedi.
Yeah, Ahsoka knows this quite well. All her Jedi relationships ended in tragedy. So Sabine steals the map and gets tracked by Shin's probe droid, reminding us of Maul tracking Qui-Gon and Phantom Menace. Meanwhile, Hera tells Ahsoka,
I bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. Before the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him and the Jedi.
the framing of this shot with Hera's projection behind Ahsoka's shoulder mirrors the framing of Ahsoka in the Lothal Jedi Temple in Rebels Season 2 Episode 18 when Anakin's ghostly form appeared over that same shoulder and turned into Vader, and finally here she began to come to terms with the fact that her parting ways with the Anakin was followed almost immediately by Anakin's fall to the dark side, and that is guilt she carries with her to this day. Sabine inspects the map sphere and deduces that the three witch statues align with this three-pronged symbol, realizing that the map's key is contained within it, and uses this Rubik's Cube twist-in of its different faces to realign it and activate it. So again, significance of the number 3. 3 witches, 3 faces. 3 is the witch's number. It's also the number of the Divine Trinity in the Star Wars mythology of the Father, the Daughter, and the Son of Mortis. With this map decoded, it projects around the sphere the galaxy they are currently in with a path to another galaxy. Episode 2 explores this path to Peridea a bit more, and I'll get more into it in tomorrow's breakdown. But just to tease my theory, I think this map was built by the Rakatan invaders, an ancient civilization far predating the Jedi and the Sith, something explored in Knights of the Old Republic with star maps in that game, and the path of the Purrgil could lead back through time to the Rakatans. I would roll my eyes at this theory, but the Lucasfilm team inserted a Rakatan Easter egg in Andor. Andor of all things. They want us to think about the Rakatan invaders. Sabine gets attacked by these HK droids, they steal the map, they blast her shit, she runs into Shin Hati, and she ignites the green lightsaber of Ezra Bridger. Sabine even starts patiently, standing at the ready position, just as Ezra taught her to do with the Darksaber, but Shin is more patient. She lets Sabine charge first. Big mistake, Sabine. Notice how Sabine uses these desperate overhead chopping motions, leaving herself vulnerable, and she tries to rush to the end of the fight with just one power blow. I mean, to be fair to Sabine, this is the first time she's picked up a lightsaber in years, and Shin, we just saw at the beginning of this episode, got a whole warm-up round of New Republic officers with clumsy trigger fingers. And throughout this fight, notice how Shin fights Sabine closer and closer and closer to the ground until she stabs her through the side. I guess missing vital organs, because even after the stab, Sabine continues slashing, which I guess is the show's way of saying, she's okay, she'll bounce back. But either way, this apprentice lost the battle of apprentices, because on the good side, the master and apprentice are still separate, and they're facing a master and apprentice who have had a lot more time together trusting each other. So I love these closing credits. They show golden lines on a star map. This is the path to Peridea that gets talked about in episode 2. It's passing through constellations and words in an ancient language. They pass a Loth wolf and a ring of Purrgil hyperspace whales. And notice how all the different lines beam back to one destination. This is likely where Thrawn is and where Ezra is. Remember, the Loth wolves and rebels led Ezra into the world between worlds. That is a realm between points in time. It's the closest Star Wars has ever gotten to time travel. Yes, it's crazy, but based off of these first 2 episodes, it seems like we might be going there. The Purrgil could operate on a bridge that takes us through hyperspace, through time, and the reason this path leads to Thrawn seemingly in one destination, it's not because Thrawn just hasn't ever gotten up from his chair wherever he is. It's because that destination doesn't lead to a place, it leads to a when. More on this in tomorrow's breakdown of episode 2. I want to thank Noah Chen for his research help with this breakdown, and again, please check out our Rebels rewatch series for more context on all of these characters. You can follow me on all social platforms at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.